Okay, here we go. All right, getting into chapters 28 and 29 tonight of Star Wars: The Old Republic, Annihilation. So that leaves two more readings in this after tonight, and we'll be done with the book. So here we go. Jump straight on into it. Theron popped the salt tablets and downed the last of the water from his second ration kit, hoping it would be enough to keep his body hydrated and his muscles from cramping for a few more hours in the sweltering engine room. He was nearly finished mapping the Ascendant Spear's control system. He only had a handful of relays left to go, and as he had become more and more familiar with the systems, he'd started writing pre-programmed subroutines to disrupt the ship's operations. One to disable the hyperdrive, another to take down the shields, a third to throw off the targeting systems of the laser cannons. He saved each subroutine as he created it in his cybernetic implant, storing them electronically for later reference, much the way he might memorize a list of names or numbers using his organic memory. Later, he'd be able to call them up and deploy them in rapid succession against Carrid and her ship, giving the Republic fleet a fighting chance when they faced off against the Spear over Duro. There was just one problem with his plan. So far, he had heard nothing about the Spear making preparations to go to Duro. Master Nosteral had assured Theron he'd convince Carrid to go there, but Theron had no way to know if his friend was alive or dead. He'd been listening to the commands issued to and from the vessel's bridge ever since he'd sliced into the comm channels, but so far he hadn't heard a word about the Jedi, and the only orders Carrid had given the Spear were to stay out in deep space until they knew more about the feigned attack on Reaver Station. His slicer spike pinged, notifying him that it had finished mapping the current relay. Theron disconnected it and scanned the data. The information transmitted wirelessly from the spike to the implant in his left eye, superimposing the image over his normal vision. He recognized a familiar pattern from a previous relay, one that indicated a holding cell, complete with security cams providing live images. The previous cell Theron had stumbled across had been empty. He'd tapped into the cams hoping to see Nosteral, only to be faced with an empty room. He hadn't thought to look for another holding cell, however. Reattaching the slicer spike to the relay, he established a connection with the security cams, projecting the image onto his visual overlay. This time he found what he was looking for. Nosteral was alive, strapped to some kind of table. His robe and most of his clothes had been stripped away. On the Even on the low-quality image, there was no mistaking the Keldor's exposed body. Theron carefully used his link with the cam to have it pan slowly around the room. The Jedi was not alone. In addition to a pair of Imperial soldiers, there was also a female Sith pureblood in the room watching over him. From her black robes and facial tattoos, it wasn't hard to assume she was a follower of the dark side. She was probably Darth Carrid's apprentice, tasked with making sure the prisoner didn't escape. Moving the cam back to its original position, Theron cut the feed. He had no idea if the Sith would be able to sense him spying on them through the Force, but he didn't want to take any chances. Besides, he'd seen all he needed to see. His mind quickly ran through his options. He could try to help the Jedi escape, but was that what Nosteral wanted? He'd told Theron he was going to convince Darth Carrid to go to Duro. Was getting captured part of the plan? Did he know his former Padawan well enough to think he could manipulate her into going to Duro by allowing her to interrogate him? It was a tactic SIS had used in the past, though the success rate wasn't high. Sometimes the targets saw through the ruse and refused to take the bait. Other times they simply killed their prisoner before the false information could be fed to them. There was no way to know if getting caught was actually a calculated gamble by his partner or if something had simply gone terribly wrong with his original plan. But if something had gone wrong, Theron realized there wasn't much he could do to help. He might be able to overpower the guards or the Sith individually, but he doubted he could handle all of them together. And even if he did, breaking Nosteral from his prison would only alert Carrid that her old master wasn't the only one who had infiltrated the Spear. The entire ship would go into lockdown until they were both found. Most important of all, rescuing Nostral did nothing to address the problem of getting the spear to Duro in the next 12 hours. If getting captured was part of his plan, rescuing him would ruin everything. If it wasn't, they were doomed anyway. Hard as it was, Theron had to leave Nostral in enemy hands, trusting that his partner knew what he was doing. Trying not to think about what the Imperials would do to Keldor, he returned to his work, attaching the slicer spike to the next relay, but it was impossible to push the Jedi completely from his mind. If Nostral was going to do something to deliver Karad and the spear into the hands of the Republic, he had to do it soon. Time was running out. This time Nostral's torment was cold. Not the cold of bitter wind or a frozen world, but the black chill of the grave. He could feel his flesh rot and decay, his skin growing taut, his bones becoming hollow and brittle before crumbling into dust. When the suffering abruptly and mercifully ended, Nostral's mind teetered on the brink of madness, shattered by hours upon hours of unspeakable torments. Even as he sought refuge in an ocean of dementia and delusion, some small part of him fought to cling to the last threads of his sanity. Had the Sith ordered another immediate bout of torture, he would have succumbed, sinking into the depths of lunacy. Instead, she commanded the interrogators to halt, perhaps sensing how close he was to being lost forever, and knowing the punishments Darth Karad would inflict if she failed to uncover his secrets. "Are you ready to talk now, Jedi?" she asked. Still struggling to sort reality from the crazed pain hallucinations creeping around the edges of his mind, Nostral could only whisper, "No more, no more." "You can end this," the Sith told him. "Tell Darth Karad what she wants to know, and your suffering will be over." "I will talk," he promised. "No more, I will talk. No more, I will talk. No more." Turning away from the babbling Keldor, the apprentice said, "Inform Darth Karad that the prisoner is ready for her." By the time Darth Karad arrived a few minutes later, Nostral had regained much of his composure, though he was careful to keep playing the part of a broken victim. Given his current state, it was an easy role to slip into. "No more. I will talk," he mumbled, as he heard Karad's familiar footsteps approach. "I will talk." "I told you I would break you," the Falline whispered in his ear. "Now that you have tasted the power of the dark side, you can understand why I left the Jedi to follow Malgus." "I will talk," the Jedi answered. "No more. I will talk." "Why did you come aboard my vessel?" Karad asked. "Why face me and my apprentices? Why enter a battle you knew you couldn't win?" "A distraction," Nostral breathed. "Keep you away." "Away? Away from what?" "Duro. The attack on Duro." "How do you know about that?" Though blind without his protective goggles, he knew Karad was watching him closely, studying him, analyzing his words to see if he was lying. The best way to keep her from recognizing his deception was to blend fact and fiction, seed his lies with bits of truth. "The black cipher. We cracked the codes." He could sense Karad suddenly stand up straight, shocked by the news. "That's how we found you," Nostral continued. "We intercepted a message that you were going to Reaver Station." "How long have you had the cipher?" she demanded, crouching down beside him again. "Since Ziost." He didn't need to say any more for her to know what he was talking about, and the less he said, the harder it would be for her to get a read on him. "You came to the station, you attacked me on my ship, you staged a false Republic invasion fleet, all to make sure we didn't go to Duro?" "We were afraid of you," Nostral said, feeding her ego. "The Republic is setting an ambush at Duro. But we can't spare enough ships to bring down the spear. You would turn the battle against us." "My ship was never part of the fleet heading to Duro," Karad said, and he heard the suspicion in her voice. "You were on the Dark Council. You choose your own path," Nostral explained, remembering how headstrong she had been as his Padawan, as he played even further to her pride. "We feared you would defy the will of the Minister of War and come to Duro to claim your share of the glory." "Then why are you telling me this now?" Karad asks. "Are you hoping I will show you mercy?" Nosteral tried to laugh, but all that came out was a hollow, haunted rasping of breath. My plan worked, he said, offering the final piece of bait. It's too late. We're too far away. You'll never get to Duro in time for the battle. Now it was Karen's turn to laugh. You're wrong, master, she sneered. You have no idea how fast my ship really is. When the Republic spring their trap at Duro, we will be there. Karen stood up and headed for the door. Watch him, she said. No more torture. I want him alive and sane so he can witness our destruction of Duro and the Republic fleet. Should we send a message to warn Moff Nazor about the ambush? Her apprentice asked. The Republic has broken the cipher codes, Carrots snapped. Sending the message now will only let them know we're coming. They might even abandon their plan. Better to sacrifice a few of our own ships than to let the Republic fleet escape. Forgive me, master, the apprentice replied. There is so much I still have to learn. Tell Moff Lorman to set a course for Duro, maximum speed, she ordered before leaving the room. I've done all I can, Theron, the old Jedi thought. Now it's up to you. Deep in the bowels of the engine room, Theron finally heard the orders he'd been waiting for coming from the bridge. Set a course for Duro. A klaxon rang out 3 times across the ship, the signal for the crew to prepare for the jump to hyperspace. A moment later, the hyperdrive core began to howl as it ramped up to full power. He did it! Somehow Master Nosteral did it. Theron redoubled his efforts, knowing he had to finish mapping the relays if the ambush was going to stand any chance of taking down the Ascendant Spear, assuming there actually was an ambush. Nosteral had done his job, and Theron was busy doing his. But none of it would matter if Tethys and Satele couldn't convince Jace to send a Republic fleet to Duro. That was a short chapter. We're done with it already. Okay, so jumping on into chapter 29. How long have we been going? 15 minutes. Wow. Well, I might just go ahead and do 3 tonight if that's how short they're going to be. Let me see. Yeah, here. Bear with me just a second. Sorry. Ooh. Okay, so we have 2 really short chapters and then we get into some really long chapters. So I guess I won't. I'll just do the 2 tonight. All right, so chapter 29. No, Jace said, slamming his fist down on the back of the couch he was standing by. This is insane. Satele's call had woken him in the middle of the night. When she told him she was coming over right away to see him, he'd still been too bleary from the shots he'd shared with Marcus earlier to ask any questions or protest. Not that he would have refused her request. He and Satele had spoken many times since she'd ended their relationship. Given their respective roles in the Republic and the Jedi Order, it was inevitable. But their meetings had always been official, held in offices or meeting rooms. She'd never come to his apartment before, so he knew whatever business she had was urgent. The Grand Master of the Jedi Order was not a woman prone to overreaction. By the time she showed up at his door, Jace's mind was right enough to guess what this was about. Somehow she'd found out about Theron, the spear, and the impending attack on Duro that was now less than 10 hours away. He expected she would try to talk him out of his plan, but what he hadn't expected was the scruffy-looking Twi'lek street thug who accompanied the Grand Master, nor the wild story she told. Do you know how many laws and regulations Theron violated by roping you into this? He shouted at her. Satele and the Twi'lek were standing side by side in the middle of his living room, a united front opposing him. Theron could be court-martialed, Jace continued, stepping around from behind the couch and moving toward them as his voice got louder and louder. Arrested. This is bordering on treason. You shout at him, not me, Tethys snapped back, holding her ground and refusing to be intimidated by his bluster. None of that matters now, Satil told him. Theron and Master Nosteral will bring the Ascendant Spear to Duro. You need to be there waiting for them. You don't know that, Jace said. You just met this Twi'lek. For all we know, she's an Imperial agent leading us into some kind of trap. I can sense the truth in her words, Satil assured him. Jace snorted. And you couldn't possibly be wrong? Because no Jedi in history has ever been betrayed by someone close to them. You Jedi may see more than the rest of us, but you don't see nearly as much as you think. Sometimes we are blind when it comes to those close to us, Satil admitted. But I'm right about this, she added with the resolute calm Jace had found so infuriating when they were together. We can trust Tethys. Even if she's on our side, we still don't know if the spear will actually show up at Duro. She can't even tell us that Theron and Nosteral were what Theron and Nosteral were planning. Was no plan, Tethys explained, making it up as they go. That's even worse, Jace shouted, turning away from them to stalk around the living room. You can't just improvise your way through something like this. Don't underestimate Master Nosteral, Satil cautioned. Darth Karad was his apprentice for many years. He knows her mind and personality better than she does. Then why didn't he know she was going to defect to the Sith? Jace challenged. We knew the risk, but we decided it was worth it to get someone close to Malgus, Satil said. Nosteral will find a way to make Darth Karad bring the spear to Duro. I wish I had your confidence, Jace said, shaking his head. But even if he does get her to send the spear, we can't face it at full power. Theron was supposed to sabotage the ship, but we have no idea what he's done. Even if he manages to plant the virus in the spear's systems, we don't have any way to activate it without knowing what frequency to transmit the code on. Theron will find a way, Satil assured him. Maybe he'll trigger the virus himself. And maybe he won't. If I send a fleet to Duro and the spear shows up at full power, we'll be slaughtered along with the civilians on the planet. Send 2 fleets, Tethys blurted. Send 5, send 10. Even the spear can't win then. We don't have enough ships in the sector, Jace said, and even if we did, sending orders to have everyone converge on Duro at the same time would tip the Empire off. They'd know we were there, and they'd call off the attack. At least Duro would be spared, Satil chimed in. Duro is irrelevant, Jace said. This is about stopping the spear. It's about winning the war. The Republic doesn't win if we don't protect our people, Satil told him. We are not the Empire. You used to understand the difference. Jace bristled at her words. Is that why you left me? Is that why you didn't tell me Theron was our son? He heard a slight gasp from Tethys as she reacted to the revelation, but he ignored the Twi'lek. His attention focused on Grandmaster Shan. I saw the war change you, Satil said. I saw you heading down a path I could not follow. I tried to help you, but I realized I was only being dragged down with you. So you abandoned me. I thought our feelings for each other were making things worse. I was afraid if you knew you had a son, your desire to protect him at any cost would take you even further down that dark path. Is that how you really see me? Jace asked. As some kind of monster? Satil shook her head. I do not always agree with your decisions, but I know you are a good man. Hate and anger are part of you, but they have not consumed you. The Jedi sighed. I used to believe that was because of what I had done, turning away from you, hiding your son from you. I used to tell myself these actions saved you from yourself. And what do you think now? Satil hesitated, her eyes shifting to the floor momentarily as if she couldn't bear to meet Jace's gaze. Is she ashamed? Jace wondered. Now I do not know, she said. She looked up at him again, struggling to maintain the reserve appropriate for a Jedi Grand Master. But Jace knew her well enough to see what was beneath her stoic mask. Regret, uncertainty, self-doubt. Maybe I was wrong to hide Theron from you. Maybe I made things worse. There was a long silence, finally broken by Tethys. Jedi Grand Master Mom, Supreme Commander Dad, now we get why Theron's so messed up. So you sending a fleet or what? When Jace didn't answer, Satil spoke up. You can't let Duro be sacked, she told him. I know you, Jace. You'll never be able to live with yourself. It will destroy you. It's worth it if holding back our fleet means we still have a chance to take down the spear, he said stubbornly. If you send the fleet and the Ascendant Spear isn't there, you save Duro, Satil said, trying to reason with him. If you don't send a fleet and Carrad is there, then you lose both Duro and your best chance of taking down the spear. Easy choice, Tethys agreed. You're forgetting the third option, Jace told them. We send a fleet, the spear is there, but Theron fails in his mission. Then we lose everything. Our chance at the spear, Duro, and our fleet. You're asking me to risk all this on blind faith that Theron will succeed. The Supreme Commander doesn't have the luxury of blind faith. It's not blind faith, Satil assured him. It's faith in Theron, faith in our son. Jace stared down at the floor, clenching and unclenching his hands. He knew what he wanted to do, but this was the most important decision he'd ever make. He couldn't afford to be wrong. I don't suppose you've had some kind of vision, he said to Satil. Something telling us what we should do? The Force has not shown me what will happen, Satil admitted. The future is always in motion. Could have just lied, Tethys mumbled. Trust your heart, Satil told him. Not a very Jedi thing to say, Jace said. You're not a Jedi, she reminded him. The Supreme Commander took a deep breath, then slowly let it out. He'd been fighting the Sith for 40 years, fighting for the Republic, fighting for the men and women who went into battle beside him, fighting for the future of the entire galaxy. But now that he knew he had a son, he had something else worth fighting for. Theron was counting on him, and he wasn't going to let him down. I'll send the fleet, he said. Now get out of my apartment so I can change. I need to be on my flagship within the hour, so we won't get there in time. You leading the fleet? Tethys asked, clearly surprised. If Darth Carrad doesn't show, then Chancellor Suresh is going to demand my resignation for botching this mission anyway. Might as well go out in a blaze of glory. I'm coming too, Satil declared. Forget it, Jace replied. We're not risking both the Supreme Commander and the Grand Master of the Jedi Order on the same mission. We serve the Republic, she reminded him, and this mission is critical to the war effort. If there's even a chance I could help, I need to be there. And the Order is strong enough to survive my loss if something happens, she assured him, just as the military can survive yours. Good luck, Tethys said. You're coming too, Jace told her. What? Why us? I'm risking everything on your story, but I'm still the Supreme Commander of the Republic military. I still have responsibilities. If it turns out you're actually an Imperial spy setting us up, letting you go would make things even worse. So I'm not letting you out of my sight until all this is over, just in case. Theron better mess up the spear real good, Tethys grumbled. Don't want to get blown to bits. You're not the only one, Jace agreed. The howling of the hyperdrive made it hard to concentrate, but Theron was still able to tap into the spear's navigation systems to get a sense of where they were. At first he thought there was no way they'd get to Duro in time, but the ship was moving at speeds he was having trouble believing. He checked and double-checked the data, wondering if there was an error somewhere. He'd studied the hyperdrive systems, and it shouldn't have been possible for them to be moving this fast, not without some external power source boosting the system. Darth Carrad. Tracking their progress backward, he realized the ship's velocity had jumped when the systems for her personal command pod engaged. The engines were actually drawing more power from her, the symbiotic link between Sith and ship channeling dark side energies through Carrad to augment the spear's abilities. With a sinking feeling, he realized that even with all the time he'd spent mapping the networks and studying the ship, he still didn't have any real concept of the Ascendant Spear's full potential. Darth Carrad's ship might be too formidable a foe for the Republic fleet. Theron hoped the Republic's chance for victory wasn't already lost. And that is the end of that chapter. So, we'll leave off there. 4 chapters to go and an epilogue. So we will pick it up in not next Wednesday. I'll be out of town. So it'll be the following Wednesday. So all right. I will see you all on Friday. If you happen to be around and not out celebrating 4th of July, I'm still going to do my reading. So I'll see you then.
Feeling shattered skies, watching teary blue eyes, wonder where I might find some peace of mind. Not lights like I've had, but more sophisticated into the